Alright, hello everyone, it's Happy, and today we are talking about the buffed up VK90, and of course Wargaming decided to give this tank more armor, as if this tank did not have enough previously. This tank was one of the best side-scraping tanks in the whole game, like literally in the whole game. This tank's ability to side-scrape is crazy. On top of that, it has very strong frontal armor and turret armor. So overall, this tank had one of the best armor profiles in the whole game, especially for heavy tanks, if not the best armor profile for a heavy tank at tier 10. Like, flawlessly, and Wargaming slapped more armor onto this tank frontally. Before we get to the armor profile, obviously I went into the training room to show you guys the new additional armor. Before that, I want to talk a little bit about the weapon handling. So the weapon handling on this tank is also very, very good, because if you compare this to the Mouse IS-7 or the Super Conqueror, for example, it's going to have better aim time than the IS-7 and the Super Conqueror, and it's going to have better dispersion than tanks like, the Super Conqueror, Mouse, and IS-7. So again, obviously, this tank is not bad when it comes to the weapon handling. On top of that, this tank has, okay-ish DPM, 2600. But then again, if this tank had sort of borderline 3k DPM, it would become far too OP, even though it already is OP. The penetration with standard rounds is 275. This tank will butter through your armor like no problem. And on top of that, it has 460 alpha, which is actually pretty decent. The only downside, I would say, of this tank is the fact that it has 30 kilometers forward with a power to weight ratio of 12. So it's going to be faster than the Mouse, or it's going to be very similar to the E100, for example. So overall, apart from the armor, this tank does have a pretty decent gun. So let's get that out of the way, right? It has a pretty good gun and pretty bad mobility. So now if we jump into the training room, guys, you can see right in front of you what the VK90 looks like when another heavy tank is aiming at it. It doesn't have a weak spot. It literally does not have a single weak spot frontally, apart from that tiny little bar on the lower plate. Will you ever be able to hit that in an actual battle? Probably not. The cupola is also impenetrable. The cheeks on the turret are impenetrable. So the lower plate is also super duper red. There's a tiny little line that is, penetrable. If this tank side scrapes, you're never penetrating this tank as a heavy tank or a medium/light. TDs will, 50-50 this tank, depending on how accurate the gun is. Apart from that, you are not going to pen this tank. This tank has unbelievably strong armor. And I started to play a 1v1 a few times with my good old friend Tommy. These are his stats on the screen. And in comparison, these are my stats on your screen. So as you can see, I'm going to be the better player on average, right? And we're playing a 1v1. We played a 1v1, I think maybe 3 or 4 times. And every single time in the VK90, he absolutely dominated me. He absolutely slapped me around like I'm a 40% player. This is one of the games, for example, and you can see that he doesn't even try. He over-angled for me. He allowed me to penetrate him, and I struggled really, really hard with a Mouse, one of these stronger, tier 10 heavy tanks in a 1v1 because of its armor and the fact that it sort of looks down on you, so your armor is sort of nullified, right? And in that case, the Mouse absolutely, he blew me away. Literally 3 to 4 times in a row, he just absolutely smashed me up and spit me out like I was nothing. And this is what the VK90 will do in a 1v1 duel. This tank will absolutely destroy you, because penetrating this tank is extremely hard. I feel bad for any medium or light, because gold is never ever going to save you. And I really wonder as to why Wargaming even decided to do this. So again, this is very interesting from Wargaming. They decide to nerf random tanks which don't need a nerf, but then they also decide to buff random tanks which don't need a buff. Again, I don't know what to say about this. So tell me what you guys think about this in the comment section below. And with that, Happy is out, and I'll definitely see you guys next time. Bye-bye.